Hello and welcome to the online lecture series on the course of Object-Oriented Programming. In this video, we will cover the remaining topics of Chapter 4. We have covered till this point in the last class, and we will start from the structures and we'll try to differentiate the structures with the classes, and then we'll continue with our next topic, that is enumerations. So the basic difference between the structures and classes is not that much. However, structures in C++ are basically used to store the data only, and classes are basically used for the both functions, data and plus functions. So, however, we can also use the structure for the purpose of function as well, and it is very possible that we can interchange the functions of structures and classes. The classes are covered in detail in chapter number 6, which is named with classes and objects. We will cover in that chapter, but at this moment we should be very clear that classes are basically used for holding both data and functions, and structures in C++ we generally use for the only data. At this point we should know the difference between these two concepts of C++. Right. We will start with enumeration. Right. Enumeration is another approach of user-defined data types. Okay. So one approach we have covered in the last video, that was structure. So structure basically provides us a way to define user-defined data types. Right? And enumeration is also another way of defining the user-defined data types. Right? So structure and enumeration almost have the same function, but they are slightly different, and that is what we'll try to cover in this video with a series of examples. Right? So we basically employ enumeration only when we have a finite set of data that need to be stored in one variable. Right? So this statement maybe feels slightly difficult to understand, but I'll show you on the code block by giving you certain examples. Okay? Right here, the one way of defining the variables is this way. Let's say you want to have 8 or maybe 7 different data elements. Either you take from the user or you store them hardly. By hardly I mean you give direct value to them. Let's say we have an integer here. Integer is a data type, and A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H are basically all the variables, right? And in these variables you basically store the values, meaning the numbers. So either you take number from the user or you give by yourself. This is one approach. The other approach is this way. So you have again an integer data type here, and the variables are A, B, C, D, E, F, G and H, and every single variable contains one value, and say A is equal to 0, B equal to 1, C equal to 2, D equal to 3, E equal to 4, F equal to 5, G equal to 6 and H equal to 7. So this integer is basically a built-in C++ data type. A is a variable, B is also variable, C is also a variable, and every single variable is assigned one value which is in decimal. Right here we have only the variables, but we have not assigned any value. So in this scenario we can take the values from the user. One approach is to use the built-in C++ data types. That in this example I have done that. So I have used integer here. In this example I have also used integer here. The other approach that I have mentioned to you in the last video is a structure, and in that we can define the user-defined data types. Another approach we have in C++ is basically enumeration. So in enumeration, what we do is we basically use the keyword enum. This enum keyword basically indicates the enumeration, and then we give one name to the enumeration, that is number. So suppose I am storing numbers here, therefore I have mentioned numbers here. So this name is basically a variable, right? And this variable is storing these all numbers, right? Apparently they look like characters to you, but they are not characters. They are basically the numbers. So every single character has a one value depending upon its position. So enumeration basically starts with 0. So the A basically has a value of 0, B has a value of 1, C has a value of 2, D has a value of 3, E has a value of 4, F has a value of 5, G has a value of 6, and H has a value of 7, right? I will explain you the syntax, but at this moment we need to understand that enumeration, if we employ the enumeration, then we can store a finite set of values. So these are basically a finite set of values stored in one variable, and that variable is numbers. Right? Now, whenever we want to access these values, then we have to use this variable in our main program body, and that variable will work like a user defined data type. Now right here in this program, this number, which is basically a name given to our enumeration, right? This variable will act like a user defined data type, and now w and x will be acting like a variables here. Now w is assigned, is w is equivalent to a, that means w is assigned the value of 0 because a is at position 0 by default, and x is equivalent to c, and c is in position 2, that means the value of x equivalent to 2. So w has a value equivalent to 0 and x has a value equivalent to 2. Now let's say we want to add these two numbers, and these numbers, the result of these numbers will be stored into a new variable, right? Therefore I have mentioned integer y, and this y will be holding the result of these two, of the summation of these two numbers. So one number is w is equal to a, and a is equal to 0, and then x equal to c, and then c is equivalent to 2. So 0 plus 2 is equivalent to 2. So therefore on the output side we will get 2 on the resultant. So I will show you this outcome now right here. So see, the result is 2 here. The idea of using enumeration is basically you store finite set of values, right, in only one variable. So for every single number, let's say for 0, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, for every single number you do not need to define one variable. Only one variable is required to store all these values. Okay. So this is the one way of having the user defined data types. Now this variable, which is basically a name given to this enumeration, will be acting like a one variable in your main program body, right? And that variable is known as user defined data type. Right? And this data type has these two variables at the moment. One variable is w and one variable is the x. Now I will show you one more program to give you a good understanding of the enumeration, right? This program is available in your textbook, right? You may try to practice the same, and I have the code right here. Now within this program we are employing the enumeration, so I have mentioned enum as a keyword, and the name that I have given to the enumeration is days of week. After this there is a curly bracket, right? Curly bracket here and curly bracket here, and within this we define our limited set of data, right? So within this set of data we have the days of week: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now, as I mentioned to you, apparently they looks like to you a character or maybe a string, but on the back end there is a values. There are integers there, right? So Sunday has a basically value of 0, Monday has a value of 1, Tuesday has a value of 2, Wednesday has a value of 3, Thursday has a value of 4, Friday has a value of 5, Saturday has a value of 6. So actually on the back end there are values from 0 to 6, right? So enumeration is nothing but it is a finite set of data, right, which starts actually with 0 and it goes till the maximum number you want to have, right? And this enumeration has to be declared before this integer main, before your main program starts, like the same happens in the structure. After the using namespace std and before the integer main. Now let's suppose I want to use this variable in my main program body, then I mentioned this days of week here, and as I told to you, now this days of week, which is a variable or a name assigned to this enumeration, will be acting like a data type, right? And day 1 and day 2 are basically the variables. Now right here day 1 is equivalent to Monday, so I know that Monday is at second place, so it has a value of 1, and day 2 is equivalent to Thursday, so Thursday has a value of, this is 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4, so day 2 which is equal to Thursday, that means it is equivalent to 4. So on the back end there are integers, and every integer is given some name to it, right? Now I want to obtain the difference between these two, so I have declared one more variable with the name of difference, and because these are the numbers, so therefore on the output side I will get one number, therefore I have mentioned integer here. So integer difference equal to day 2 minus day 1. So day 2 I know it is equivalent to 4 because it is Thursday here, minus day 1, so day 1 is Monday is at second place, so it is actually 1 here because Sunday is 0, Monday is 1, so 4 minus 1 equal to 3, so right here I will get 3 on the output side. And then I am performing the comparison if day 1 is less than day 2, right? If this statement is true, then we will get this on the output side, right? Because day 1 is equivalent to 1 and day 2 is equivalent to 4, so this statement will be true because 1 is less than 4. Now if this statement is true, then we will be having this thing on the output side. Now I will show you this program on the code block, okay? So right here I'll run this thing now. So the first result of this difference is equivalent to 3. Right here if you see, it's equivalent to 3. And the second operation that we are performing is comparison. So first operation is subtraction of these two numbers. One number is 1 and other number is 4. 4 minus 1 is equal to 3. So the first result is equal to 3. The second operation is we want to perform the comparison because this statement is true, therefore we are having this on the output side, that day 1 comes before day 2. So actually enumeration, as I mentioned to you, basically stores finite set of values within a one variable. So these are basically the values stored in one variable, and that is days of week. And this variable will be acting like a data type in your main program, and that data type is known as the user defined data type. And if you want to use these values, then for that we need to have the variable. So I mentioned day 1 and day 2 here, right? Now I'll show you the syntax of enumeration, right? So the syntax is, first if you want to employ the enumeration, then you have to mention enum. That enum indicates enumeration, and this is the keyword. And then you need to give one variable, I mean the name to the enumeration, and then you will give two curly brackets, and there will not be equals to sign here, right? And within this you will define set of names. These set of names will be reflecting the set of values on the backend, right? This always starts with 0 and it goes till the last name that you have assigned, and the last name will be, maybe it can be his value of 8, can be 9, can value of 10 as well, right? And then you can use this enumeration in your main program by the help of only this variable. Clear? Now I have one more example here. This says enumeration, that means we are employing enumeration in your program, and the name assigned to enumeration is pets, pets, pets. And in curly bracket I have a set of pets here. One is cat, dog, hamster, canary and ocelot. Now if we want to have this operation, then technically dog plus canary is equal to nothing unless we do not know the values of them, because to perform the arithmetic operation, let's say addition, we need to have the values. So because in enumeration you see the dog is at second place, so this is 0 and this is 1, so dog actually has a value of 1, and canary is actually at the position of 0, 1, 2, 3, so therefore it's 3, so dog is 1, canary is 3, so answer would be equal to 4. Now in this scenario we can perform we are performing the relational, we are using relational operator to perform the comparison. So relational operator is less than here. Now cat is at place 0 and hamster is at place 2. So 0, 1 and 2. So this statement is true. Right? If we are using if in our program, then this statement is true. Right? Now there are a few more examples, but you should be very clear that enumeration is another way of defining user-defined data types. This should be very clear to you. And enumeration basically is only used to store finite set of values in only one variable. Right? And actually these are numbers, so these numbers are basically integers, and these numbers are basically given one name to them, and by that name we can access them. Right? And because these are numbers, so therefore we can apply arithmetic and relational operation on them, as we have done in this program as well, and right I have explained to you right here as well. Now I'll show you one more interesting thing in the textbook, which is right here. Now the difference between the integer type and enumeration type is that the integer type are basically the built-in C++ data types, and enumeration, whenever we use, that explains that we want to have user-defined data type. So structure and enumeration are basically the way by which we can have the user-defined data types in our program. Now whenever we use enumeration, every single element, right, is known as enumerator. Right? So these are basically the enumerators. The Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are basically enumerators, right? Cat, dog, hamster are basically enumerators. Like in structure we say members, right here we will say enumerators, right? And every single enumerator is basically assigned one name, right? And they are called by their name only, right? So right here if you see in the textbook, whenever we use enumeration in our program, then every single value has a certain name, and by that name we actually call that value. But in the case of integer, there are only numbers, right? And the numbers are basically assigned to certain variables, and that is the difference between these two. And we only employ the enumeration when we have a finite set of data. If we have an infinite set of data, we cannot use enumeration. Enumeration is a bounded set. Bounded means the two curly brackets are indicating that there is a bounded set, and within that bounded set there can be 7 variables, there can be 7 numbers, there can be 8 numbers, there can be 10 numbers. It's very possible. Right? Now the next thing is, can we really start our enumeration not from 0? Not from 0 means, let's suppose I want to start this Sunday to be from 5. So I can say Sunday equal to 5, but then the Monday will have a value of 6, Tuesday will have a value of 7, Wednesday will have a value of 8. Then this value will be increasing in ascending order depending upon this first value. So by default the first value is always 0, but if you want to change it, then you need to put equal sign. Let's say Sunday equals to 5, then automatically Monday will be 6 in ascending order. And so you can change the first value in your enumeration. Or let's say suppose you want to have Monday multiplied by 2, and next Sunday starts from 5, then Monday is 6. So Monday is 6, 6 multiplied by 2 is 12. So that technically means the Monday will have a value of 12 there. It's very possible. But by default in C++, enumeration starts with 0, and they are always given some name. So name depends upon which kind of function you want to perform. Right? So let's say in this example I want to have information about the pets, therefore I have given these such names. In this case I want to have information about the days of the week, therefore I have given the names accordingly. So you can change these names depending upon what kind of function you want to perform in your program, but you need to really understand this. Actually, there is a finite set of data which starts with 0 and which can be changed by assigning one value to it, and then accordingly in ascending order the value will increase. Okay, there is one more very interesting example which we have covered in the last examples as well, um, but we have done in a different way. In this program, I'll try to show you one more approach by which we could have done the same. We could have done the same program as well. Right now, we need to count the number of words in a sentence. Right. So we have done this program earlier. In that we have counted the word only when there was a space. Right. If there was no space, that means that suppose if you are continuously typing, right, that will be counted as number of characters only when we give the space. Right? If you give the space, that means you are done with the word, and that word will be that word will get incremented, and that will be counted. Right? But the only problem in that program is, suppose if you give large number of spaces, then every single space will be counted as a new word in your program. I hope you understand my idea. So what we have done in the last program that we have done earlier is that if you are typing continuously, right, that will be counted as a character. Right? Character was incremented. That become only a word if we give a space. Right? Space means like it's now a new word. Now, if you give large number of spaces for no reason, then your program will increase the word variable and count it as a new word. Now, this is a flaw, right? Therefore, in this program, we will try to have a new approach. I'll explain to you here, and then I'll demonstrate you the program. Now, this program basically counts the word only when there is a word. If there is no word, if there is only space, then that will not be counted as a word. Right? So there are two conditions. One condition, if there is any space, such as right here, this space will not be counted as a word. And second condition is when you enter from the keyboard. So enter is basically equivalent to \r. Now you should be very clear that \r is used for carriage return, and carriage return is equivalent to the enter. Now, in these two conditions, first condition when there is a space, and second condition when we press the enter button from the keyboard. In these two scenarios, these are the false scenarios, so therefore it will not be counted as a word. But whenever we are typing, that would be counted as a word. Right? So space, if there are extra spaces, if you give in the program, right, that will not be counted. Like in the last example that we have done, in that if we give spaces for no reason, then that would be counted as a word too. But now in this, whenever we have a word, it truly will be counted as a word. If there are spaces, then that spaces will not be counted. And if there is \r, meaning if there is enter, then that will not be counted as a word here. Right? Now I'll show you the program. In this program, right here, in this program we are basically employing one library additionally, and that library is conio.h. I hope this makes sense to you, that conio.h is used for get character echo function. So whenever you employ the get character echo function, then you basically use the conio.h, right? And in this program we are employing the enumeration, we are also employing the do while loop, and we are also employing the if else statement here. Okay? So we are employing the one additional library, that is conio.h. We are employing the do while loop, right? And we are employing the if else statement. Right? Now let me explain to you. The program start with these two libraries, then using them space std, and because we are employing the enumeration in your program, right? So for that reason, we need to write enum keyword first before the integer main function, before our program starts. And now this enumerator is given the name of it is a word. Right? Now this is slightly ambiguous, but you need to understand that it is a word is basically a name given to this enumeration, right? And now this enumeration has two values. One value is no and one value is yes. So no is at 0, 0 means false, false means no, and yes is at second place, therefore it has a value of 1, 1 means true, right? It is no and yes only because if you see from here, when there is a space or when there is carriage return, then these two cases will be considered as a false or no, and when there is a true word, it will be counted as a word there, right? It will be true, true means yes, yes means there is a word there. So it is a word, is basically a name given to your enumeration, and these curly brackets states that from here enumeration starts until this point enumeration ends, and it contains two values. One value is 0, one value is 1, no is 0 and yes is 1. From here our main program starts. Now because we want to employ this enumeration in our main program, therefore we have to use this variable as a user defined data type. Now this user defined data type has its own variable, that is word, right? Now initially is word is given the value of no, so this no is coming from here, from this enumeration. Now this variable will act like a data type, and it has its own variable, that is word, and it has a value of no, right? So whenever we write the program, we have to define all those variables. So this is the first variable, that is word, and it has a value of no. Second variable is character, it has a value of a, because it is character, therefore we have mentioned a single quotation mark. Then there is one more variable, that is word count. Word count is equivalent to 0, and because 0 is a number, therefore it is an integer, right? So I hope you remember from the very first program that I have explained with the concept of physics problems. So this act like a data here, yeah, remember? So this is a user defined data type, and these are the built-in C++ data types, right? Now this character is only mentioned equal to a because we want to run this while here, right? So we need to give some value to truly run this thing. So if this is not equivalent to any value, then this while will not work. So this ch is equivalent to a, and this a is definitely not equal to r, therefore this do will work. Now our first statement in program is cout is equal to enter a phrase. Now once we enter the phrase, then by the help of this getCharacter function, we can actually display it, right? So whenever you enter and you simultaneously want to display on the console, for that reason you have to use the getCharacter echo function. So the ch is indicating that you are taking the characters from the user and you are simultaneously displaying them, right? So I hope this getCharacter echo function makes sense to you, right? So enter a phrase means you will type a sentence, and within that sentence definitely there are characters. So you want to display those characters on the console, I mean on that black window that you usually call, that is basically a console. So for that reason you need to have a variable, so that variable is ch. Now this ch is have a character data type here. Now this is slightly ambiguous here, but I have already explained to you that this is if. Within this if there is one more if, and then there is else if. This is nested if with the concept of nearest if else. If you remember that this else will be close to the nearest if. Now this else could be because of this if, or this else can work with this if, but it will not work with this if because it is very close to this if here. So if you expunge these two curly brackets from your program, then this else will work with this if. Now this else will not work with this if because this if has its own two curly brackets here, right? So our conditions are that if there is space and if there is \r, then we will directly jump to this else if, right? So I'll show you now. Right here, if you see, if there is a space, right? If there is a space and if there is a carriage return, then we need to directly jump to this statement here. That means there is no word. Is word equal to no means there is no word because there is a space or there is \r. right? If this is not true, then we have to run this within this if here, right? So this slightly works in different approach. This follows slightly different approach. Therefore, I have mentioned these arrows here to make you understand. That I hope up to this point this thing is clear. You enter the phrase, and then there's a do while loop, and this do while loop keep working until this condition does not meet. Now, because initially this ch has a value of a, as I mentioned to it is a character, it is a value of a, and a is not equal to r. Therefore, this do is working, and within this do, actually we are displaying the characters, and our first statement says that this need to be only working, that this inner if should only be working if this condition is not satisfying, right? If this condition is satisfying, then directly we will jump to this statement here, right? Otherwise we are working with this here. So the conditions are if there is a space or if there is a backslash r, right? This is only happening because we see from our statement, if there is a space or if there is a backslash r, then we have to directly jump to this thing here, and then we will say there is no word. If this is not happening, then we will shift directly to this inner f. This says we will count the word as a yes, and then the word count will increase, and then once we are done, then we will say word count equal to no, right? So this value will change from yes to no, yes to no, yes to no, depending upon whether there is a space or there is no space. If there is a space, then we will say there is no word. So therefore we will mention is word equal to no. This no is only possible when there is a space or when there is a backslash r. If this is not happening, that means there is a word. There is a word, so we'll count as a word count plus plus. Initially word count is equal to 0, then word count will increase from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on and so forth. When the word is done, then we will say again is word equal to no. Then no means this first enumerator, and that is the value of 0, 0 means false, right? So I hope this program makes sense to you. I'll show you the same thing on the code block now. I have this thing right here. I'll run this. It will take some time. Okay, now I'll enter a phrase. I'll say that I am a happy person. Now there are 5 words. I is 1, M is 2, A is 3, happy is 4, person is 5. So there are 5 words here. So it is not counted. It is not counting any extra space. Let me rerun it. I'll enter spaces deliberately. Let's say I enter I, then I give so many spaces. Then I say M, M, and then I give spaces, happy, and then person. Again, there are 5 words now, right? So these extra spaces will not be counted if you employ such kind of such kind of concepts in your program. If you employ such kind of concepts in your program. If you do this program with the approach that we have already covered in the last examples, then the extra spaces will be counted and you will unnecessarily word will be counted in your program, right? I hope this makes sense to you. If you have not understood the theory, then you should go with these 2-3 paragraphs. So these 2-3 paragraphs will explain the same idea which I have just explained to you, right? Now the next program is basically we have done earlier with the cards in the structure, but in the structure I have mentioned some constant numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 for club, diamond, hearts and spades, right? Because these are constant numbers, so it is not good idea to use constant integers. It is always good idea to employ the enumeration. So we have mentioned enumeration and we have given the name of enumeration as a suits here, right? The suit is only because these all members belong to suit. So club, diamond, heart and spade, if you remember from the rummy, they are basically the part of suit here. And then in curly bracket, club, diamond, hearts and spades. Now club we know is it 0, so definitely club it is 0, diamond is it 1, heart is it 2 and spade is it 3. So rather than having this pattern of constant integer, you should better employ the enumeration now. So if you are very clear with enumeration and if you have good grip, then better to go with enumeration and the structures, right? The next thing is we can change the values as I mentioned to you. So club starts from 1. So if you mention club equal to 1, then diamond would be 2, heart would be 3 and spades would be 4. If you not mention equals to 1, then by default club would be equal to 0 because enumeration always starts with 0. Now And this is very interesting here. So people eventually think that the north, south, east, and west are basically the strings, right? Because eventually they look like strings. But if someone knows that enumeration basically has numbers on the back side, then someone can solve this thing. Now let's say uh, in this program we want to display the value of direction, right? So direction 1 is mentioned equal to south, and we know south is equal to 1. So the output would not be equal to south, but output would be equal to 1 because south is actually a number, and number is given the name of south here, right? Some other examples of enumerations are you can use for the months. So January is first month, February is second month, March is third month. So in this way you can use the enumeration. You can also use enumeration for switch, such as on and off function. So like on and off. You can also use enumeration for meridians like AM and PM. You can also use enumeration for the chess game members, pawn, knight, bishop, rook, queen, king. You can also use for queens as well. So we have different types of coins in the market: penny, nickel, dime, quarter, half dollar, dollar. So this kind of currency is used in US, right? In UK as well, probably. I'm not very sure, but in US I really know. So enumerations, whenever you have a finite set of data and you want to represent that data by using one variable, then you should use enumeration. Otherwise, not. Right. So I hope you have got some idea of the enumeration from this video, and try to solve these examples. I'll upload the same on the VLE as well. And if you have any questions, you may drop me in the WhatsApp group or on the email, whatever you prefer. Um, I'll upload a dummy quiz for you. Dummy quiz will not have any marks. This dummy quiz only means that you can attempt quiz on the VLE. So I'll try to upload dummy quiz as soon as possible. Then I will let you know, and then try to attempt dummy quiz. Right? It is just for the practice purpose, and then we'll take the real quiz number 2, because quiz 1 is already taken in the class. Right? Try to solve these exercise questions. I really know there are so many questions, but try to attempt them. These exercise questions, which are basically the programs, right? And again, if you have questions, just drop me an email, WhatsApp group, VLE, whatever you prefer. Thank you so much, and have a good time. Take care. Allah Hafiz.